Okay, morning everyone. All of my barely 30 viewers. This is a video about a really cheap old Paramount blower vacuum model B350 7 amp blower. Problem with this one is that the high-low switch, power switch, doesn't work all the time. It sticks. I'm going to see about either fixing it or replacing it. So the first thing that I have to do is get all these screws out, and I don't think I want to bore anybody with that, so we'll pause here. Okay. Manufacturer does not want you to get into this thing. I'll give you a little bit of history on it. It's very old. I got it from a place I worked for back between 1995 and 2000, and the owners gave it to me because they bought a new one. This ring on the front here is not meant to come off. I had to slice it down the center, and the plastic on this is so brittle that I think some of the post broke, possibly. Or at least partially broke. This is interesting. It says on the front here, energy efficient permanent magnet motor. I wonder if that means it's got a DC motor in it. Let's see what's inside this. There we go. Little piece of foam that got stuck in here. Not much in here except the centrifugal impeller. Here's the switch, which is broken. This is a 3-position switch with oh, there's the other piece of that. If it's like most devices, we've got power comes in, and we got off, low, and high. So you move it to the center, which would be the red wire, which is low power, or you move it to the far end, which would be high power. Low 5, yeah. Interesting. So what I'm going to do is we're going to just sidestep, or just not even use the low speed. This thing doesn't blow very well anyways, and we're going to just go out through I think the black wire. Let's see if there's oh yes, there's another screw on the back. Oh, look at all the plastic coming out. This thing is just falling apart. This is humorous. I I don't know if I can get to the motor. I wanted to look at the motor, but everything about this says go away. Well, I'm going to do some exploring and come back. Well, it looks like what they did was this plate covers up a couple of screws that hold on this, and there we go. Yep, DC motor. We have a bridge rectifier and a couple of capacitors. This thing's very dirty. Some random crap in here, and it looks like yeah, that's what I thought. So all they're doing for low speed is they're running the electricity through a single diode, which apparently runs at about half speed. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut that red wire and completely remove it. There's no real point in having this thing blow at low speeds. It really doesn't blow very strongly to begin with. So I'll just take that out of here. And while we've got it open, we will blow it out, and I'll check the size of those brushes, but even if they're wearing out, don't have any replacements, and if there's any kind of lubrication that this thing can do, which I doubt, we'll do that. Okay, well, cleaned it out, and the brushes are fine. They got a lot of wear on them. This thing could be run for a long time. The motor's going to outlive the plastic on here. So this area where the switch was is I'm not going to be able to put anything there. Although what I might do is well, I might be able to make it work with this spot. I may epoxy or something. The switch I've got is this one. It's rated at 10 amps at 125 volts. And so let's see if it it's a little too wide to fit there. What I might end up doing is just moving it. There's a space right about here where I can put it, and then just covering that hole up. So I'm going to get to work on putting a hole in here, and probably going to use a Dremel tool, and I'll come back in a little bit. Alright, changed my mind about the Dremel. What I'm going to do is I've got a piece of aluminum here that I'm going to place in this area. Going to cut an opening in it the size of the switch, and then going to epoxy it in place. So, alright, so what we're going to do is the switch, I put this over and then traced out the opening, and the switch can go anywhere within this black area. So I'm going to measure it out with this, cut it with some nibblers after I drill a hole in it, and then just cut it to fit. We'll go from there. Alright, so switch is mounted. It's kind of funky, got some little protrusions that I had to make up for. I'm going to put a bead of epoxy around it just to hold it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and epoxy it in place, and we'll go from there. Okay, so while I waited for the epoxy to set up, I put this back on, cover back on. So now, what we've got to do is going to put these wires back where they belong. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this wire, remove the connector off this wire, and we're going to run the hot through the switch. So I need this. I need to cut this, and we need to cut these a bit shorter. Damn you, coffee. Yummy. That wire is all corroded. Okay. Alright, I'm going to put this thing back together. Okay, so it's all back together. Switches set in place. This is back on with a zip tie. This thing will last about as long as the plastic does, which is probably not going to be too much longer. Just dropping this one time would probably ruin it. But here it is. There you go. It works just fine.